And we're live. It's Friday, and no, hang on, I'm out of switch ports. It's only a 48 port switch. No, I'm not going to show you what I look like. Right, 48 ports. Okay, close the door. Excellent. I don't know why. I just amuse myself with these kinds of things. So what the heck? Who the heck calls me right at the beginning of an AMA? Hi, guys. Hey, it's Friday. Happy Friday Pie Day. Let me get my screen reconfigured here. I was just changing it up. I know the focus looks really soft. If you're seeing it soft, I'm seeing it soft. I've been futzing with it for the last half hour, and it's soft. And it's not like I've changed anything. So, hey, how's everybody doing? As you can see, at least for the moment, and probably for the duration, I'm solo today. Michael has another commitment, and something weird happened with Scott yesterday. A bunch of cats apparently came strolling through his neighborhood, and they were all caterwauling and howling up on a fence, and he just couldn't resist joining them. So he caterwauled with the cats till, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning from what I heard, and his voice is totally gone, and he's choky and coffee and all that good stuff. So he's working the background, as you can see. He's moderating the feeds and answering questions and tolerating Tulowitz puns. Do you work all week on these or on the days prior to an AMA? What kind of puns will I make tomorrow? Or are you dependent on what Mike says or I say or Scott says? Well, here. So let's talk about it. We get together once a week, every Friday, to talk about the Raspberry Pi. And we also extend that, of course, into the various CompTIA topics, ITF and A+, Net+, Security+. And this is as sort of a way for those of us who are trapped at home for all the various reasons that we're stuck at home these days to continue learning, to have a little bit of fun, and work our way through the ranks. Get that certification so you can get a job. No, I'm kidding. Get a job while you're working on certification. Then get that certification. So I am David Rush. This is Total Seminars. It's Pi Day Friday or drama. Dave Rush Ask Me Anything. It's just regular old drama today, no dramas. Let me throw some stuff up here. Hey, that's the right stuff. So we'd like you to post questions, Raspberry Pi oriented, CompTIA oriented, anything else that makes you happy outside of religion and politics. We'll let that go. It's just me, so we'll just put up my contact info today. I'm Dave Rush. You can get me my email at either daver@totalsem.com or my personal email, drushtx@yahoo.com. Got lots of email this week, and keep it coming. BloodRushTX when I'm gaming on Steam, and the office number if you try to get in touch with us. Somebody will pass along a message, or if it's critical, get you in touch with one of us. We have specials, of course. It's the same special we've had all week during Mike's AMAs. It lasts through 2 days from now, Sunday. Our special this week, 50% off all A+ and Net+, Total Tester and Total Tester Sims bundles, and Security Plus Total Tester. And notwithstanding Scott's voice, I was talking to him this morning, excuse me, and he said he's making headway on Total Tester Sims, but we don't have the date yet. Use the code AUTUMN, AUTUMN, at checkout to take advantage of these discounts. Good through Sunday, October 4th. No, I don't know what time. I don't know if it's midnight Central Time or UTC or whatever. But it's some kind of time. Do it before then. Don't procrastinate. Then you don't have to worry about it. Let's see what's in the notes today. We got fun stuff. Oh my gosh, we got fun stuff today. Reading my notes, religion and politics, and contact information in the AMA specials. Hey, we're 3 pages in out of 14. I don't make notes anymore. I don't make outlines anymore. I almost go Scott mode. I write everything that I'm going to say. So they take longer pages, but it doesn't give me the opportunity to sidetrack much. There goes that special. And as a reminder, we do this stuff on Raspberry Pi. most of it will work on any other flavor of Linux. So if you haven't bought your Raspberry Pi yet, stop putting it off and buy it. But otherwise, set up an Ubuntu virtual machine. Yes. And a lot of this stuff will even work in Windows. The thing that I'm going to do today will not, but that's unusual. So a little bit of a quick review, where we've been, where we're going. Where we've been, I always do the review of last week. And it was, for all intents and purposes, 2 things last week. An hour and a half of Dr. Eben Upton. Oh my gosh. I am still bouncing off the walls. I hope some of you are. There were things that he said that I didn't understand. Some of it was because the vagaries that happen with an online audio connection, along with some differing accents. And some of it was just flat out technical. Heck, I asked a question, a technical question, looking for a technical answer, and he gave one. And I'm still trying to put it together. I played it back and I've got some notes on it, but and then of course it was stuff that we all understood, and it was great, and it was awesome, and it was useful, and man, awesome. We had some great giveaways, 4 Pi kits. And then of course Mike was with us for the whole time. So we took general questions afterward. What a show. We didn't do anything of our usual stuff, no projects, no nothing. And if I could talk to Eben every weekend, I would, and we'd skip all this other stuff. What we're going to do today, not going to do a Wireshark thing. I got enough stuff to do that I don't need to fill that in. And we pretty well beat up all of the main protocols. There's other protocols that get addressed in courses like Sec Plus, where they talk about SIP and RTC and things like that. You don't have to know them in the way that we need to know the early well-known port protocols, the FTPs, the telnets, the SSH, stuff like that. So as an interesting one comes up, or if anybody has a particular protocol that they want to see Wiresharked, we'll do it. But otherwise, I don't have anything in the offing that I'm planning to do a Wireshark demo. I did some stuff this week, just personal fun stuff, but I took pictures, and I'm going to show you cool things with Raspberry Pis, doing astrophotography. Oh, fun stuff. Quasi hobby of mine. And then today's biggie project. This sounds so simple, but it's so cool, and it leads to so much more. We're going to control an LED with a web server. Now, we've already installed Apache web servers in the past. It's really, really easy. You can go back and look at the either first episode that we did 10 weeks ago, or the second. It's one command: sudo apt install Apache 2. Boom, now you got a web server. But we're going to expand on that thing. We're going to make it a PHP server, which takes a flat web server. What's a flat web server? It's just something that has a pre-created page of content. And when you say show me content, it puts that page up. PHP makes it dynamic. PHP says, I can reach out, gather information, build the page, and then send you the page. So we're going to use PHP, excuse me, mouth dry, and have it interact with the electronics inside the Pi to control a pin in the expansion ports. I know, we'll explain all the phrases. And then we'll start out by controlling an LED and talk about how that can take us further. People are controlling entire gigantic mega farm watering systems with these companies. Eben mentioned that a lot more companies buy these than he expected. And so I ran some research this week. 40% of all Raspberry Pis are sold into corporate environments right now for corporate usage. So pretty cool stuff. All right, I'm gonna look at some questions, and then I've got some interesting news of the week for us all. I haven't seen Scott back channel me anything, so there's probably lots of answers that he's been doing, but let me roll through here. Excuse me. You guys crack me up. I just read this stuff and break up. And so apologies sometimes if I just chuckle and you have no idea why. I'm just reading your stuff. Though my Moody Blues protocol, I think that's hilarious, and I chuckle at it myself. Okay, so Brendan's here, Tulowitz here. Andre de Goyert's here, not from Spain. I'm just going to list all the places you're not from, Andre. Let's see where that goes. Haven't seen my Pi yet, so I'll be virtualizing one in VirtualBox. Okay, and you can do that. So what you've got there, Andre, is just a regular run-of-the-mill Debian Ubuntu with a, okay, thank you, Scott. I lost my train of thought. I read Scott's note. Oh yeah, so you're gonna have, it's gonna have a an interface that looks like, it's not Pixel anymore. I can never remember the right name of the current, oh, let me shrink this. That'll solve that problem. Whatever the name of the current interface is, it's totally escaping me. That's what it's gonna look and act similar to. So it's cool. A lot of similarities between Ubuntu and Raspberry Pi OS. Armando Perez, hello, good to see you, sir. Virtual Pi is calorie free. Where's my ban button for puns? It's okay if Tullowit's here, but how do I kill the pun? Dr. Quinn, greetings. And see you. Which I think they're playing ball again, right? Yeah, right. I'm so sorry about your unemployment. At least you knew it was coming and you're taking the time to spend learning and hanging out with nerdy folks like us and all of our other compatriots here on the feed. John Lehman, welcome. Dr. Quinn, that's the wine. If we do the cat flavored wine again, I'm out. Hey, Armando, you got your Canna kit. Nice. Did you get the 2 gig Ras 4, I assume? That's what, in fact, no, I'm not using that. I'm doing Raspberry Pi 3 today because I can. Everything's clicking. It's an epiphany. Oh, God, Scott, you actually wrote it out. Man, that's it. I'm out. That's got to be the crack up line of the year so far, and we're into October now. It's October. You guys ready for that? Holy Hannah. Scott Jernan, had you heard C64 Classic is coming out soon? You know what would make me happy? If they re-released one of these classics like that and they did it 100% classic electronics. Because whenever they release this new re-release Nintendo or whatever it is, it always has the same functionality. Everything looks, works, and acts the same, except the internal chips are now upgraded, and instead of 75 discrete 74 LC XX chips, it's got one ASIC in there. And okay, yeah, that's cool. But for me, the experience is the electronics as much as what the thing does. Eric Crenshaw, hi-oh! It is almost Saturday night. That would be tomorrow. Hope everybody's having good weather. We have had the clearest weather for days in a row than we have had in months. We usually get clear skies in the winter here in Houston. So these wonderful clear days were what tripped me into breaking out the telescope this week. Hard to buy a Raspberry Pi since you haven't worked since March. Yeah, sorry about that. Brad Taylor, I got a very specific question. Anyone familiar with UV4L? Spent a full day trying to get it to work with UTC webcam. So we head over to Uncle Notes. It's a streaming server. I have never personally used UV4L, so I don't have that answer immediately. If you join us again on next Friday, I will either have it working or have tested it or have answers. And of course, I would strongly recommend you head over to raspberrypi.org and do the forums and just do a search on UV4L. There's going to be people with lots of info there. A UTC webcam. What am I missing there? I saw UTC and my brain went to time. USB webcam? I'm not familiar with a UTC webcam, so I'm sure that's what it's all going to come down to. You've got something that's unhappy between whatever kind of webcam that is and your UV4. Got me there. I'm sorry, you got me strung up. Now I have to stop the whole series. Not just Pi, right? Yeah, ask us anything, and Scott will answer too. Getting toward the end. Web Dev Bootcamp. Welcome back, Deepak. This is. I see Eye of the. All I see is Eye of the Tiger, and now I got Rocky stuff running through my head. UTC is the driver. Okay. I'll try and look into that if I get a break time here, but working solo today, I can't turn it loose to Scott and say, hey, answer questions while I go look this up. So, hey, there we go. Scott's got a link for it. All right, caught up on the questions that I can see. So let me highlight that. And let me do something, we'll call this news of the week. This is actually some stuff that I've had piled up for a couple of weeks that I just wanted to share with you. We set up 4 weeks ago a Kodi media server. And I did it as a fake. Because you can't watch an OpenELEC install real time on my screen with me, there was no point. And so I installed it on a Windows machine. And once it's installed, it's they all look and act the same. Doesn't matter what platform you're running them on, Windows, Android, Mac, Raspberry Pi, whatever. So that was a fake, but I admitted it. It wasn't something like I was trying to hide. And then we did some other stuff in following weeks. And I started looking into OpenELEC to see what exactly it was and if it was possible to install Kodi on regular good old Raspberry Pi OS. We used to do that back before it was Raspberry Pi OS, it was Raspbian. And I used to do Kodi installs on Raspberry Pis that we sent to schools. And I would always install the NASA channel from one of the repositories on there. So it struck me that either OpenELEC was super optimized or super stripped down. And we've got, with Raspberry Pi 4s, no fear in needing to strip things down so that Kodi or anything else will run on it. So I thought, I'm just going to take a whack at this thing and try and do a sudo apt install with Kodi. And it happened. Boom. So I installed it on the same machine that my Plex server is running on. So I got Plex, I got Kodi, and I've got a back-end storage system. And it is now the most awesome Raspberry Pi-based media server in existence. So if you installed a Plex server with me along the way 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago, whatever it was, you can install your Kodi server on the same machine, sudo apt install Kodi, done. Now you got them both running, get them integrated in the same way we did, install the Plex add-on to the Kodi server so you can tie them together and they'll work together on the same machine. And what a nice thing. Oh, let's see, did that. Okay, so I want to show you something. I'm going to fire up a, maybe I'm going to fire up. I rebooted my machine just before we started so it would be nice and clean, and I didn't relaunch this. Hang on a second. Bump, bump, bump. There we go. All right, I'm going to fire into a, there we go. Just, I'll pick any one of the Raspberry Pis that are running here at random. I know you can't see it yet. Stand by. Got to share it. Okay, share screen. It's a Raspberry Pi. And there it is. That's shared. All right. I have shown you in the past a command to combine commands. Let me show you something here. If I want to do 2 commands in a row, there are a bunch of different ways to do it. Let me show you all 3 of them. I'm not going to hit the enter on all 3 because they'll take a couple of minutes and I don't want to sit through and be bored by them all. But let's say we did sudo apt update, apt. I'm not going to hit the enter key, but that's command number 1 of the 2 that I want to run. And when it's done, now I run the second command, sudo apt upgrade And if I hit the enter key, it'll run, it'll prompt me, say, hey, do you really want to run this upgrade? And I have to say yes to it, or I can head it off at the pass and add my -y right here. So that's one way to run 2 commands in a row. Run one, you wait till it's done, you run the other. Oops, clear. Another way to do it, the way we typically do it, is the 2 commands strung together, sudo apt update $, and then run sudo apt upgrade. I always do the -y first with this one, upgrade upgrade. And so what happens here, and this is an interesting thing, is it might run 2 commands in a row, or it might not. That's the cool thing about the $. If the first command fails, and I can string another one on here, 3, 4, 5 more commands, but as soon as one of them fails, everything after the $, will be canceled. So let me show you that. I can actually do that right now. Sudo, let's typo apt. And I hit the enter key on here, and the first command failed. It says, hey, there is no such thing as APR, so I'm not going to run that, and I'm not going to run anything past $. Now, what if I were doing a string of 5 or 6 commands, and I didn't care if one of them failed, I wanted the other ones to run? You can do that. We'll make this correct. And then change the $, for a semicolon. A semicolon says, I'll try the first command, and if it works, cool, I'll do the second command. And if there's more after ampersands or semicolons or whatever, then I'll do those. But this thing says, if one fails, fine, I'll let that one fail, but I will continue to do the ones after the semicolon. So that's the difference between stringing commands together with a $, and a semicolon. $, says on failure, stop. Semicolon says on failure, that's okay, try the next thing. Cool, eh? Stop share. And we're back. Whenever I do this at full screens, and I have to totally reorganize my screen so I can see you guys. Bear with me for just a moment. I really should switch to OBS. I've got it, it's running. All right, rolling back, catching a couple of questions. Brad Taylor. And they have to pick on you from tool time, right? Sorry about that. Unfortunately, most of the tutorials are for Pi camera. USB cameras need some other configuration. Right, that is true. I run both on some of my Pis. I just didn't realize I may or may not have been using the UTC driver. Yeah, we'll figure it out. No caffeine yet. Makes me feel like I'm out in center field. Center field only gets capitalized when you're talking about Mr. Fogarty here. I have a story with that, so I hung it today, so stand by. Yes, sorry, I should have said that, Brad. Email me. I have it in my notes here to research it, but when I have an email, it makes me kind of grab myself by the back of the shirt and say, let's go do it right now. John Lehman is there's a story behind the R, and the story is it doesn't stand for anything. I had 3 grandparents who had an R name, and they didn't want to insult anybody by picking one of them. So my name is R. Can't help it. Ooh. All right, tell you what, if you're gonna knock out, do the Fogarty, I'm gonna do the Fogarty story. This is a few years back. God, 11, 12, 13 years back, something like that. It's way back there. And I had this gig up in Northern California. It was a 23-week gig teaching Novell NetWare 0 to certified netware engineer to a bunch of recently unemployed naval yard workers. So their unemployment benefits included training, and a whole bunch of them got together and said, let's get somebody to put a class together for us and hire an instructor and all that good stuff. So I was out there for 23 weeks and I worked very closely with the gent who put this thing together. We became personal friends, his wife and I, and my wife and us and whatever. His wife and I, that definitely didn't come out right. He and his wife, me and my wife, and we'd hang out at their house. I took the wife out for a few weeks of it, and we trolled Northern California. That was kind of fun. And the first time we went over to this couple's house, they had a few years on us. We were sitting down to eat, and he said, "Oh, forgot to warn you, we're probably going to get a visit in a few minutes." Okay, I assume you're going to fill us in? Yes, I will. He said, what's going to happen is a little dog is going to come clawing at the back door, and we're going to let it in and we'll give it a snack or something like that. And then a few minutes later, its owner will come by to retrieve the dog. And this is an on-purpose thing by the owner. He does this on purpose whenever any of his neighbors has company that he doesn't know. He turns the dog loose to go in their yard so he can go get the dog and find out who's coming over. So, okay. And sure enough, it happened exactly the way they described. So the gent came in, we introduced each other, we talked to each other for a few minutes and got each other's background, kind of, sort of, except for the big missing piece. And he took his dog and meandered off. And I said, well, okay, that was interesting. And he said, no, you don't know how interesting that was. That was John's dad. So I met Mr. Fogarty's Mr. Fogarty and had a nice time chatting with him. That was in Berkeley. Oh, yeah, I know, Tollwood. I've been seeing them all. Scott, that was weak. Proud Mary today. If we had a Mary online, don't we have a Mary who turns up on occasion? I know we got Alice or Alice and I've got 8 names off the top of my head, but I can't think of a Mary. I know why. We have a Patricia Grace, and I'm a good friend here with a Mary Grace, so I'm putting them together. Oh, Tullowit, you were never close to born in the bayou, California, Hawaii, man. All right. Oh, Shockey, good to see you. Thank you. I really enjoyed that experience as much as the story. Back in the 90s, ran Novell NetWare 4 on Windows NT 4 server for the job I was working at. Nice. Yeah, I don't think I was one of the first CNIs, but I was early on and joined Novell not long after I got into the CNI world. What is the national drink out there? We shall find out. All right, so moving on. Questions are caught up. I want to mention something that I talked about ever so briefly with Mike after Evan left us last week, and that is a LAMP server. LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Collectively, they call that, if you install all 4 of those elements, a LAMP server. So we got Linux, we install Apache. You can install Apache on a Windows machine too, and on just about any other platform in existence. The PHP is for the dynamic aspect of it. With PHP, it's a scripting language. So we can call to a PHP script and it will go and find and build content and pages for us and then spit them out. If you've never noticed this, keep an eye on websites that you go to where you have to select anything, especially like search engines. If you go look up in the browser bar, you'll see question mark equals, question mark equals, question mark equals. That question mark is actually part of the PHP query and script language. We can make a LAP server more powerful by adding a database to it. So now he doesn't just have reach out capability into the computer or sensors, but into a database that you build. And we're not going to do a LAMP server today for what we're going to do. We're going to do a LAP server. We don't need a database, but I will in the next couple of weeks do a LAMP server that will add some real power to our world. But what I want to do now, there we go. Thank you, Scott. Oh, God. Do you just pull the titles up out of your head, Tullowit, or do you say, wait a minute, I'm going to open up a tab, do the top 50, I'm saying Fogarty, Green Mountain is the greatest album that you ever did. Brain farting on the band name. Help me out. Anyways, do you look up their top 100 and then just start picking them and making puns, or do you have Fogarty's top 100 at the top of your head? All right, let me show you something here. We're going to bring up some screen sharing. Is that the right place to start? I know you can't see it. Yes, that is the right place to start. Go here. Screen share. Thank you, Credence. All right, what you're looking at here is a beast called PiCam. This is the first generation official camera for the Raspberry Pi. Came with a short ribbon cable. People started selling longer ones because the short one was really short. And a long one is 30 centimeters, so it's not that short, or not that long anyways. And there are some longer ones. This little connector here goes into a matching sandwich connector on the motherboard. And it's all ready to go. Raspberry Pi then has two primary commands that are used for taking videos or pictures, Raspi Vid and Raspi Still. So here's one connected up to the little handy dandy connector on there. That's the camera connector. You can put it in backwards and it can be damaged. So pay attention when you go install one of these. By the way, you can pick up one of these old Generation 1 PiCams for about $5 on eBay. So worthwhile. The next generation had higher resolution. This was a 5 megapixel one. The next generation was 8 megapixel, and then the current generation is even more. What you're going to notice on here, let me go back to this earlier one. This little handy dandy thing is a lens. You can twist it to focus it, and it's glued. So you got to unscrew the glue, but this little ring here is also glued, but you can get a tool, or if you're brave and patient, a pair of needle nose pliers and twist that off if you have a need for it. Now, normally you should keep the lens on it if you're just going to take pictures. But for some things, like what I'm going to show you, taking that lens off is a pretty slick thing. There we go. So this is the lens removed. And what you got in there is the photo sensor. Now, if you get the night version, the Noir, there's a little thing in here that you have to take off. And you don't want to. Better to buy the old non-IR version. Leave the IR version because you'll get better IR images. But if you take this off, now it won't focus. If you put this up in front of something, all you're going to see is horrible fuzz, like somebody's eye's been poked out. No good. Unless you've got a lens that you can put on there that replaces the ones you took off. And there are two ways to do that. This is an industry standard size. So you can get different lenses and pop it back in place where this one was, or you can use it on a camera or a telescope, or camera lens rather. So what I did was I used the 3D printer at work, and I printed this adapter. This thing is 1.25 inches in diameter, and that fits exactly into the eyepiece of a standard telescope. And then on the other side of this, there's a place to mount that camera circuit board, and I didn't put the picture up for it, but then there's one more piece that goes on the back of it so that it becomes light sealed. And by the way, if you ever do something like this with optics, don't use white, use black. This is something somebody else did, and I'm sure they learned an important lesson. I did one in red once, and it turned all my images red. And this one, I guess he was just doing a little fitting because he still left the lens on here. You wouldn't do that if you're going to hook this up to a telescope. It doesn't work. So here's my telescope. I had this sitting in the background when Dr. Upton was here. Most people are smarter than I am. I invented this before I saw it. they mount their Raspberry Pi with a long cable, long video cable, either back here on the back of their scope or up here on the front side, something like that. I kind of taped it and suspended it here. That's the adapter that I use for mine. By the way, this is just a cheap old gruddy telescope that I got at a pawn shop. I have a real decent one upstairs, but I didn't want to go through the hassle of all that setup. So a little closer view of it then. Obviously, I don't have power or cable to this. There's a Wi-Fi in here, but when I take it out to the backyard, it's too far away from the WAP to have a good connection. So when I did what I'm about to show you, I ran a long Ethernet cable to the jack. The next thing I did was wait till sundown and moon up, and I took 136 photographs of the moon. Now, what happens with this is because of that lack of lens, you get such a close-up view that it's impossible to get the whole moon in the frame. And in fact, what would happen is I would set it up and you could see the moon moving. It would take about 1 minute to move from the upper right-hand corner to the lower left-hand corner of the moon coming onto screen and then off of screen. So what I did is I set up a time lapse and then made it take pictures every 10 seconds. And then I would just adjust the telescope for what I wanted to shoot next. And I could look at the Pi and see when the picture got taken and then adjust again and adjust again. And I did that 136 times. No, I'm not going to show you all 136 pictures. Check this out though. Is that some decent focus? And actually it can get better. I was quick and sloppy. When we start looking over on the right side of the moon, it's less in focus, and that's literally a distance issue. That right side edge is farther away from the left side edge. These black spots that you see, as I said, it's an old cruddy telescope, and that's actually spots on the mirror. So after I got the 136 of them, I used Microsoft's ICE stitching software to composite all 136 images together. And you can see it's got this little pink flare. I've seen that happen on a lot of different Raspberry Pis. I don't know the reason for it, but it imparts some little pinkish thing. So I ran it through a photo editor. What photo editor are you saying? Well, I know you're all saying Photoshop, and you're all wrong, because I'm a Linux guy, and I therefore have to use GIMP. GIMP is the poor man's Photoshop. It's not as intuitive. It's got a learning curve to it, but it's very powerful. So cleaned it up a little bit, blew it up a little bit. And if we zoom in a bit, pretty cool, eh? Now there's other software for the real astronomer types who will take 130, 150, 1,000 images and stack them together and really pull out all the detail. Yes, I finally learned how to zoom and unzoom. And let me show you one that I did, one last one. I just took a little chunk and used some astro imaging management stuff and made it really super sharp. So freaking cool, eh? How much did that cost? $5 for the camera and $1 or $2, and not even $1 in material. It did take 2 hours or so to print the adapter. Oh, and I had to buy metal screws for it. That cost a couple of bucks. But you know, you're in for $10 to do some really awesome astrophotography. I love the Pi. I used to do astrophotography with my camera. I got a better way now. How are we doing here? It's 39 and we got questions to catch up. Beer for the Netherlands. Is that Tuborg? I like Tuborg. Heineken. Let's go to Holland. Sure. Amstel. Herdog. I haven't had a Herdog in a long time. Erdog. Oh, Tullowit. That explains so much. Born in Jersey. Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. Yeah, and Linux. You said that. I missed that. Andre de Goyard, local microbrews are the best. Yes. What are they making? Bananas and coconut in Hawaii? I have a banana beer. There, I would have put that as a pun in writing, and that would have been hilarious. Justin Kinsey, welcome, sir. I was on help desk for Novell and Windows Network. Very cool. I don't know if you guys knew this, but long after NT or NetWare 4 and even NetWare 5 came out, the American Airlines reservation system ran on NetWare 2.15. It ran for years and years and years and years after it was dead. Microsoft continued to support it just for them. They obviously finally changed out. Yes, Mo, it was CCR. Greetings. I don't know why. I do know why I brain farted on that. I'm getting old. Rambunctious. Oh. Did I say 37 meters? 30 centimeters. Oh, you got the 4 gig. Way to go, Armando. Nice. No, 5 megapixels is not bad. That's what I did those with. That was 5 megapixel sensor. Yeah, we have seen her talk here in the States. I have not seen Jan Grand Prestige. Jan. There we go. Don't 10%. Okay, yeah, I won't drink too much. I'm a lightweight. I get a couple of beers in me in one night and I'm gone. It must be cool to get good beer down in the corner. Hey, likewise, Andre, we hope you hit the States sometime. You become what we would consider a friend of the show, and hope you and anybody else, whoever makes it into Houston, you email one of us and we'll meet you somewhere. I mean, come on, Tullwit, if you're going to do Bad Moon, you got to do Blue Moon. Stop it. Blue Moon Rising. Yeah, bring out GIMP. Scott doesn't like GIMP. You can put your exclamation points and your smiley faces all day, but thank you, Justin. I had some fun making that. I got to explain it before I saw the question. Yeah, I hope it's dust, because it's probably animals leaving their mark. Group-wise, that's right. God, you're bringing old memories back. Tuborg is Danish. Okay. We were talking about Tuborg recently. Yeah, I guess it was Tuborg. Kona coffee beer. I've never tried a coffee beer. Always heard about it. All right, that fills up. I'm caught up on questions. And I'm not going to run behind today. I got cool stuff, easy stuff to cover. And when we finish, there's going to be time left over for questions. So I'll do some of this. We'll break for questions, and I'll do some more. So what I want to talk about now is a grand project. We've seen its title. It's controlling an LED with a web server. Okay. In order to do that, we're going to have to do just a little bit of electronics. We're going to have to do a little bit of electronics as relates to Raspberry Pi, and then we'll go into the web server side of it. So I want to talk first. Let me bring a picture up. Go to the picture looker thingy. You know what? If I close this and start it from scratch, it'll make more sense. There we go. Now we can share that. All right, so we're looking at a Raspberry Pi, and they all have something in common, and that's this guy, which is generically known as the expansion bus. We learned from Eben last week, from Dr. Upton, that he envisioned the Raspberry Pi was all about computing. So, and I think what that means from the histories that I've read at raspberrypi.org is programming. He is trying to provide computers for places that are underserved with computers so that their people can learn to do what he saw at that time was the future, and that's coding. However, one of his co-developers said, you know what, there's a lot of power and capability in this thing, in this chip that we've chosen. And while the people that you haven't specifically in mind for this may or may not want to play with this, there are other people who are going to look at this thing and say, man, that's great. I would like to use it to control something, to read sensors, to output things. So, okay, they took some of the pins of that Broadcom chip and brought them out to what was originally a 26 pin. This thing is called a header. When you got a bunch of pins sticking up from a circuit board that can be connected to, it's a header. Those are header pins. And they made a 26 pin header connector expansion bus. And then starting with Pi 2, and 0 came out after the Pi B's, B and A, we expanded to a 40 pin. Now you can see there's all kinds of different labels on here. We've got grounds, we've got GPIOs, we got different voltages, 5 volts and 3 volts, these DNCs, and there's some other, missing a couple in here. There we go, there's green. Okay, so here's GPIO 2 and 3, but it's different than the yellow GPIOs. These are green, and that's because it's an I2C or I2C, some people call it. That's one kind of a special signal that can come out of there. Same thing for these two guys. This is a universal asynchronous receiver transmitter. It's a serial port. And there's good reasons to hook up serial ports to a Raspberry Pi. We're messing with the general yellow GPIOs. Oh, so we got SPI is a serial port interface. It's not serial port, but it's another kind of output that we're not going to play with today. We're playing with the general purpose input outputs. So over here, we're going to be playing with 27. So let's talk about GPIO 27. These are just logical numbers. There isn't 1 through 27 on here. There's some missing ones, I think. Yeah, maybe there is. But what's important to recognize when you're talking about these number values is they are not the same as the pin numbers. Pin numbers on this header, if you were to look at the underside of this motherboard, I didn't take a picture of it, there would be a square solder blob under this upper left-hand pin where I'm holding my mouse pointer. That always means on a whatever kind of digital device that you're hooking up, or device with more than one pin on it, that's pin number 1. All these other ones on the underside will have round blobs. And the number goes horizontal, 1 on the left, 2 on the right, 3 on the left, 4 on the right, 5 and 6, and so forth. So GPIO 27 is on pin 13. I count these down as odd numbers: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. You get the idea. Over here's the even side, 2, 4, 6. To get to a ground wire, we're going to use pin number 6. Hey, look at that. When you connect to these things, and I think I got a different slide order. Let me hold back here. Another page showing the same kind of stuff. A little more detail. And they reference something in here called wiring Pi 8. I'll get into that in just a couple of moments. I got a page on that. So I want to show you a simple circuit. We did this in the US, what we would call 6th or 7th grade, basic electricity. Now, if we get rid of this drawing here, kind of a Raspberry Pi, and we replace this with a battery. Let's say that this Raspberry Pi is a battery, and right here connected to the red wire is the plus terminal of the battery, and back here on the yellow wire is the minus terminal. Well, what we have is a circuit now. My plus terminal on the battery goes to a light emitting diode. And light emitting diodes are polarized. They have a plus and a minus. If you hook them up backward, one of two things will happen. Either nothing, which is a good thing. That's the job of a diode. It's a light emitting diode. It allows current to flow in one direction, but not the other. So hook it up backward and current doesn't flow. And that protects us. If we hook these things up in places where somebody might accidentally wire something backward, put plus voltage on the minus side and vice versa, a diode will protect you, unless you put so much voltage that you destroy the diode. So I'm going to put the plus of this diode to the positive terminal of my battery, and current's going to flow through there when we have a closed circuit, and it's going to make this light emitting diode emit light. Now there's too much power coming out of our battery for a standard mini LED to handle. So we're going to take some of that current and run it through some junky carbon that's going to convert some of that current and voltage into heat and dispel it. And you got to have the right value resistor here for whatever electronics you're using. And I'll give you that. And now we're going to complete the circuit on the other side here. We take this to the ground side of our battery. So what we'll do is treat this Raspberry Pi like a battery. Those general purpose input output pins, I'm going to turn this into an output. It's programmable. I can make it input, I can make it output. And when we make it output, we can turn it on and it will put positive voltage out. When we turn it off, it'll put 0 voltage out, just like opening and closing a switch. So that's the cool thing about our game here. The other, I'm not gonna do the other cool thing. In order to connect to the headers, there are these things called jumper wires. And jumper wires come in 3 flavors. One with a female connector on one side. This goes over, slides over the pin. And then this is a bare wire that I can do all kinds of things with it. It's a male end. It could go into another female end. It could go into a female header. Could do anything. They also make these female, and they also make them male. Just 2 more slides, and then I'm going to take a break, and we'll talk again for a second. This is called a breadboard. These are a bunch of holes, all these little squares that you see here. Let me zoom that up. These holes on the outside are connected together in a column. So if I put a 5-volt source in any of these pins, it will put 5 volts on all of these sources going up and down. And if I connect this to the negative side of a power supply, of a battery, of whatever, a ground source, again, any of these pins would be grounded. Same thing happens over here. These ones are connected across each other. So I can hook up a component terminal here and put the other terminal over here. These aren't connected up and down, but now here's something cool. I could take a positive, a jumper wire, a male jumper wire, plug it into here, plug the other end into here, plug an LED positive leg into one of these guys, put the negative legs somewhere down here maybe, and then another jumper wire from here, whoops, to here, to the ground wire. Now, if I've got plus voltage and minus voltage on here, I'll probably fry the LED because I don't have any resistors. But this is a neat way to do prototyping and experimenting with making circuits. And that, in fact, is exactly what we're going to do today, or what I'm going to do. So I've got my little LED here, hooked it up to one of the rows, hooked up the output plus terminal to one of those rows. He goes over here and connects internally underneath all these things to the resistor. The resistor connects into one of these header holes, connects to a male pin of the jumper wire, the female pin going over here to the ground connector, et voila. So this is kind of what a little more complicated one would look like. Whoever built this thing, is just something I stole off the web, said, I'm going to tie the positive, these are called rails. I'm going to tie the positive rails together so I could put voltage on one of them and it'll feed all of these and all of these. And oh, it'll go down here and feed all of these and all of these. And they did the same thing with the ground. They tied the minus rails together. And now we're going to take some positive voltage and send it over here onto pin row 12. And that will connect up to this pin of this integrated circuit. Here's a ground wire that will connect, therefore, to this and another positive wire. Okay, got the idea? All right, that took me there. Let me show you something. I'll quit out of here. I'm going to change cameras. I don't know if there's enough light to pull this off. I didn't test this, and I changed the lighting around in here. But stand by for just a momento, and we click this, and we change cameras. All right, that's pretty well lit. So here is a breadboard that some of the folks at Total Seminars gave me a couple of years ago, and I have used it regularly and frequently ever since, doing experiments with pies and non-pie experiments. Here's a smaller one. It's about a third of the size, or maybe about half the size, that I got in a little kit, which is just great for this kind of thing. Hey, cool. Our first 2 camera job. Now, Mike did 2 cameras once. All right, I'll get back into that as we go. Okay, I'm changing cameras. Got to go over here. All right, so that's basic electronics, and that's basically what we've got going on the Pi as far as pins go. Here's the one thing I want to tell you about that. I want you to do this. I want you to spend a couple of bucks, and I want you to spend $6 or $7 on a breadboard for a cheap one, or spend 20 bucks and get this kit I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. Boy, that's really bright. You can't read that, huh? There we go. But to do this project, you don't need that stuff. You need 2 jumper wires. You cannot, could not, would not, should not do this without jumper wires. And that's what I'm going to get to in a second. That's really important. But from there, you can twist the legs, terminals, and wires of these components together. You don't need a breadboard for this stuff. But again, if you do, they're a couple of bucks. This little small one is, I don't know, $4. I know this big one, I looked it up online last night, and it's $7.99. So, and it'll serve you a lifetime. So it's not your one-time expenditure. Okay, so here's the trick now. The IO header, the expansion ports, are really, really voltage sensitive. Now you can touch them with your fingers and you're all right there. You're not going to get fried. You're not going to fry it. But if you connect certain wires together accidentally, momentarily, momentarily, the internet and the Raspberry Pi forums are just packed with stories that start, did I fry my pie? And so Hostess apple pies and cherry pies are great and they're fried. But once you touch a couple of the wrong pins together and some of them are right next to each other, well, what you need to do then is buy a shadow box and mount that thing in the shadow box and put it on the wall and call it art, because that's all it's going to be good for the rest of its life. All right, let me go look at some cuestiones. I see my name. People are writing to me. Write to Scott. Oh, Andre, it's a great sentence. I'd like to come to the stateside. I'd like to come stateside sometime. It's been on my bucket list since I worked with, oh, okay, I missed, since I thought I read that as, since I worked in Bosnia. I thought, what is that trick? I want to go to the States because I worked in Bosnia. Worked with the U.S. Mill in Bos. Okay, cool. Yes, you are most welcome here. Is it all going to be moon puns now? Or there's a moon pie joke that my wife made before she bailed out on me. I have never had a moon pie. It doesn't look like it, but it's true. Nice link, Scott. Thank you. No, see, that was a bad thing. We don't want to tell them about a double E degree. Boy, did I come out of focus on that. I don't know what happened there. Put my hand in focus, then I was feeling my face to focus up. That's a little better. You don't have to have a degree in electrical engineering for this stuff. This is simple circuitry. You got a plus battery, you got a minus side of the battery, put stuff in between them and they work, or they fry. Shocking. Fan hammer, Scott. Way more than 3, amigo. Got the lemon pie, man. Rhubarb pie. Only if you're brave. My great-great-grandmother used to make rhubarb pie, and we never knew we were risking our lives. She's old country, former Czechoslovakia, and that was a staple along with the potatoes. But Rhubarb. I'm presuming that's an on-purpose typo. I'm considering working with Pi as a controller rather than Arduino. You know, even Eben said, time and place for both of them. So yeah, it depends on what you're doing. One of the bad things about using Pi as a controller is the timing systems on the I/O pins aren't nearly as tight, and in many cases not as fast as those that you'll find on controllers like Arduino. So it depends what you're trying to accomplish. Dave Rush, any tips on IoT with Pi? Which Pi model you recommend? I recommend the one that will do the job. So there are a lot of simple IoTs like controlling a thermostat or light bulbs or things like that that work awesome with a Pi Zero. And if you're going to make it the home server, home server central box, then I'm going to go for all the power that I can get my hands on, a Pi 4 gig, or maybe even an 8 gig. Ooh, off topic, that just reminded me of something. Xen, X-E-N, they make hypervisors. Everybody knows the big three hypervisors in our PC world, Hyper-V from Microsoft and VirtualBox and VMware, but Xen is also big in a slightly specialized marketplace. Well, they just released a port of Xen for the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, freaking who? Okay, now, in order to use it today, you have to go through a notable and somewhat complicated tutorial. It's not that big of a deal. You can follow the instructions and do it. However, they are saying that when the next release candidate comes out from Linus Torvald, it will work out of the box. It'll be a sudo apt install, and they've got it running several different distros of Pi operating systems on the Pi under Raspbian, under Raspberry Pi OS. So this provides the answer, why do I need an 8 gig Pi? Because I'm running 4 or 5 Pi virtual machines on a Pi. And that is just exciting me. Yeah, I know, Focus is doing weird things. I don't know what the program is here. Are there many, it's scrolling up here, I'm getting that magic thing. Okay, from Tullowit. Are there many ground for different sized add-ons, or is it for attaching? Yeah, it's just different locations and they're distributed. They're actually all tied together. So you can, I think their value, if there is any, the total, all right, this is geek speak. Some of you feel free to tune out. It'll only be 40 seconds. The total power output, specifically the current output of all the pins put together on this thing is 50 milliamps. Now your basic, simple, lightweight LED is going to draw anywhere from 2 to 18 milliamps. If you get a high-powered LED, a really super bright one that's nuts gonzo, then you'll draw a little more than that. But 18 is pretty high for an LED. So I think this is a way to spread current around. At least that's how I would use it. Okay, rabbit hole done. Very welcome, Justin. Yeah, Pizen, yeah, XEN. Miss Potsy, so nice to see you. You're not too late. You got another hour to go. Thank you. Yes, it's a good thing to do. Okay, so let's move on then. Oh, I did all that. All right, now we're into notes and cool stuff. I think I made it. Yeah, I made it all the way to the end. I got no more pictures on here. Let me zoom through, just make sure there's no surprises. And I can close this. Oh yeah, there is that. Okay, reading. So just to finish that up, so general purpose input output pins. Those pins can be used in one of at least 3 ways. You can make them put out voltage, 0 volts or positive volts. You can make them look for inputs, 0 volt inputs, which is an open circuit, or positive voltage inputs. So that's a great way to hook it up to a sensor, maybe like a garage door opener when the light, when the photocell turns on. We can take some of that voltage and feed it in. And you get a readout on your home or IoT box, whether or not your garage door is open or closed. Okay, twisting wires, be careful, don't short out pins together. So once you've got the thing working, or once you've got it wired up, I would do all my wiring in advance. Let me go look at this so I can see you. There you go. Now I can see your faces. I know you don't know why, but trust me. When I wire up something to the IO pins or to the expansion bus, step number one is I do it while the Pi is unplugged. Okay, that's good advice anytime, because that if you short something out, you really haven't heard anything. There's no power to hurt anything. Next thing you do is you triple check it. Did I hook the wires that I intend to the right pins? Check your circuitry. Is it all good? Then have a friend look at it and compare notes. Then call Eben Upton and have him take your description. Okay, I don't want you to fry your pie. And I haven't fried one yet. I've killed one, but it wasn't for this purpose. And it was actually Raspberry Pi's fault. It's not mine. So it's all good. It was my very first one. It's dead. It's in a matte box, or should be. All right, so now we're ready to test it. Step number next is to plug it in and see if you get blinking lights. Good news if you do. And of course, you want to see it boot up, and that's even better news. So super, if it boots up, now we're ready to rock. And now I want to show you, why do I have that? Oh, okay, that belongs there. Let me show you this. There it is. Share screen, click this, click that. So to test this thing, you're going to open up your command interface, and I'll explain this stuff as we go on when we do this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to run this command called GPIO. Now, I'm going to point you later on today to a tutorial to do what I'm going to do with you. And the tutorial says you have to install Wiring Pi. You don't. It's an old tutorial, and it's included in all current versions of Raspberry Pi OS and even later versions of Raspbian. What Wiring Pi is it's a programming interface. It inserts itself into the operating system so that you can use the command line, excuse me, to control the IO pins. And the primary command tool to do that is called GPIO. If you ever want to know, if you've got a Raspberry Pi right now and you want to know if Wiring Pi is installed, just type in the command GPIO space -V as in Victor. And if you get any kind of output, Wiring Pi is installed and you're ready to go. So we're going to, and GPIO is the manual command to control pins. So this first one says, set this pin, IO pin number 27, not pin number, but logical number, to be output mode, not input mode. And then send a value to it of 0. That means turn it off if for some weird reason it were turned on. And then this will turn the voltage on. GPIO, write to number 27 a value of 1. And now voltage will come out of it. Turn it back off by rerunning GPIO write 27.0. You may or may not need the -G, and again, I'll get into that. All right, that's controlling stuff, or that's the command to control it. So briefly, I want to talk about PHP. I think I've pretty well covered everything that I want to talk about. PHP is a scripting language that embeds itself to an Apache web server and other web servers, of course. What's it stand for, people ask? Well, when it originally came out, it stood for personal homepage, but then the organization that maintains it and upgrades it, by the way, an upgrade was announced yesterday. They're on the 8th generation, release candidate 1, effective yesterday. So exciting stuff. And it's this dynamic scripting language that allows us to do really cool things with our web servers. We can talk to them, they can talk to us, they can access resources and so forth. So when you install an Apache web server, the default file that it throws out when somebody connects to it is a file called index.html. And if you got an Apache web server and you have that file in the right place, that's always going to be what it uses. So I see it focusing in and out. Sorry. If we're going to install PHP, and when we do that, its extensions are .php. If I put an index.php file in the right place, it'll be in the same folder as index.html. And when the Pi server runs, he says, oh, I see there's an index.html file. That's the one I'm going to present. So we're going to have to get rid of that when we install PHP support. Otherwise, you'll never be able to use PHP. Kind of, sort of. Okay, let me show you where we're going to get our tutorial. You can follow along on it if you feel like, or you can use it as a reference after class. Share. Wow, I don't know what that is or where that got, but okay. I stick this up here just to show you the command that I use to do the time lapse. You can look up Raspberry still command options or flags anytime you want, but this is just kind of a cool thing. Raspberry still -O means create a file called moon_%03. That means 3 characters and a D, which starts sequentially at 1. So the first file that this is going to create is going to be called moon_001. The next one, moon_002, and so forth. PNG. How frequently should I take a picture? This is time lapse. It's in milliseconds, every 10,000 milliseconds. So every 10 seconds. And how long do you want me to keep taking these pictures for? Again, milliseconds. 600,000 milliseconds is 10 minutes. And I want to see a preview on the screen where the upper left-hand corner is in horizontal row 0 and in vertical column 0, and make it 800 pixels wide by 600 pixels long, deep, down. There you go. Okay, just interesting stuff. See it in the archive. This is where I'm kind of stole some of the tutorial from, and you'll see his name and info in there. So I'm not going to read that to you. You can read it. Scott can memorize this and type it in. Before you ever start any installation of anything new, of course, sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. And if you haven't already, install an Apache server. I've already got it installed. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to demo it. It takes a few minutes, but sudo apt or sudo apt get, install Apache 2. And it's going to ask you, do you really want to do this? You can say yes at the time, or you can head it off at the pass on the command line with -y. So it says, once you've installed it, test it. Okay, I'm willing to do that. Let me fire up a different share. Let's see, that would do something horribly recursive. Okay, there's a good place. I'm just opening up a web page. I'm going to open up a tab here. And I'm going to go to the website, 192.168. I'm doing this on my PC, not the Pi. I could do it on the Pi. Yeah, it's 120. Okay, so there's a brand spanking shiny new Apache 2 web server. This is coming from a file called index.html. The next thing the tutorial tells me to do is actually to go edit that thing and go and look and make sure the changes take effect by refreshing this page. I'm not going to do that. As you read through that page, again, ignore everything about wiring Pi. It's all in there. You're going to start off with the Apache install. I'm doing this on a Pi 3B, and just for hoots, I thought I'd do this on the smallest recommended card today because it's just a one task kind of thing. So I got this on an 8 gig card. I did try it on a 4. It laughed at me. Takes a minimum of 6 to install from a noob's box. I could do it on a 4 if I did a different kind of install. So what do you need? You need a Raspberry Pi. You need an LED. You need about a 250 ohm resistor, and you need some jumper wires. So let me show you. I'll see if I can get this in focus on my front screen. And if not, I'll break up that other camera again. This is a little kit. It's from Rex Qualis, REXQUALIS, and its title is Electronics Component Basic Kit. See if I can get that. Yeah, you can see it that way. These are all over eBay for 20 bucks. And what you're going to find in there is everything. The little breadboard that I'm using over there came out of here. I got 10 or 12 bags of resistors in all kinds of different sizes. I got a whole bunch of male-to-male jumper wires. That didn't do me any good. I had to pick up a couple male-female. There is a big bag of LEDs. There's a big box of transistors. I caught that. And there's capacitors in here, and there's integrated circuits, and there's this thing. This is really cool. This is a power supply that lets you provide power to that breadboard via a USB port. All I got to do is plug this into the pins on the breadboard and hook this into a USB power supply, and I got power on there. So I think if you want to learn anything about electronics, this is 20 bucks well spent. It will last for ages. This is one heck of a nice gift for the niece or nephew or grandchild. All right, that's a cool kit. If you don't want to do that, you can get the components that you need to do this project for a grand total of about $2 off of eBay. Just get an LED, a 250 ohm or so, call it give or take 50. Resistor, those will cost pennies. And a couple of jumper wires, they'll probably clip you $1 or $2. So, but you can get this stuff all the usual places: Micro Center, Amazon, eBay, your local electronics store. Yeah, Radio Shack is closed. I cried. I may have cried more than the day my dog died, but I'll tell you where I go for a lot of electronics. My favorite electronics store online. There's plenty of these and good competitors, but Alltronics, ALLTRONICS.com. All right, moving on. So I've installed an Apache server. I have tested it. It works index HTML. The next thing you might have to do, if you're going to do this on a Pi, you probably won't have to do this. If you're doing this on some other machine, not sure why you would, because you wouldn't have access to the GPIO ports. But we'll just look at his tutorial and see what he makes us do. He wants us, first of all, to go to the place where the index.html file is. Now, I've done this before. You're going to see some other files in there. But cd/var/www.html. And if this is the first time you go here, hey, it is. I wiped everything out. I took it all on faith. There's my friend index.html. And they want you to make sure that the account you're logged in as, probably Pi, is the owner of this thing. Yeah, we have to fix this actually. So new install, the owner is not Pi, it's root. So next step is to change this. So I'm going to chown. Oh, am I not sharing? Sorry about that. Thanks. Let me undo what I've done here so I can re-show. Man, that is so fuzzy. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm in the Raspberry Pi, I open up the terminal. And according to that tutorial, I'm going over to cd/var/www/html. and I do an ls, and that's exactly what you see with a fresh, shiny new Apache 2 installation. Now they want us to check who the owner is. So I do an ls-l, and there's the owner, root and root. So we got to change that to pi. It's a really simple thing. We chown, we're going to sudo change owner to pi, the name of the file. Okay, no error messages. So that's the way Linux works when things work, but we'll check it for sure. ls-l. There we go. So I can't delete this file if I don't own it. And then, since we have to delete it or rename it later, that's the trick on this guy. Excuse me. All right, following the tutorial. I'll keep us up there because everything that we do stays in here. The next thing that they want us to do, actually they wanted to do this earlier, was to install the PHP code. It's kind of weird, or the PHP app. Oh, I didn't copy and paste it into these notes. I'm such a goober. Stand by, I'll get it. Go here, go here. This is the place. This is the place. There it is. All right. Again, I have already installed this, so I'm not going to. Come here, you. You're moving around with me, it looks like. That's weird. Okay, should be seeing what I'm seeing. So this is the command that you would put in next. It's from that tutorial. So we install PHP and we install the library for Apache 2 that modifies it to support PHP. And it goes buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. It's just about 30 seconds or so, depending on your connection speed. And wow, cool. All right, so now we've got to delete or rename or do something with that index file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. Sudo copy. You can just manually delete it if you want. If that's what the instructions tell you to do. But I like to be able to restore this back when I'm done. Sudo copy index.html to index old.html. Bam. So if I try and go and refresh this page, there's no longer an index.html, and it'll say, I don't know what you're talking about. So the next thing I have to do is to create a PHP file, and it has to be called index. So we'll sudo nano index.php. And then let me get that code that goes in there. We'll copy and paste it. It's much easier than typing usually. All right, so we're going to put in a script language command here. PHP lines always start with this embedded question mark. So that's it. This is a PHP command called PHP info. We're going to save this. Control X. You want to save this? Yes. You want to save it in index.php? Yes. All right. So now there's a file in the var www HTML folder called index.php. So I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to go back over to my web page, my web browser. And I'm just going to refresh this, F5. Really, I am. Control F5. Oh, I left the original index.html in there. Stand by. I'm just going to leave you on this page. I'm going to go delete that original one. Sudo rm index .html. Okay, there's no longer an HTML file. That's not the right one. That's the right one. All right, now we refresh the page. I hate you. And I don't like you. All right. Real-time television, huh? Stand by. Let me see what I goofed up. LS. All right, I got an index PHP. It's the only thing that's there. Heck, I'm going to remove the old index file just for fun. Remove index-old. There's no way it needed that. I don't care. All right, the only thing that's in that folder is that page has to be cached right now. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to close that tab, open up another tab. Heck, I'm going to open up a whole new private window. Shrink you. Sorry about this, guys. All right, go there, go there. And I'm going to open up that page. Well, you can watch it, see how bad it screws up. Have I mentioned to you in the past that I don't love Zoom? I like it, but I don't love it. Okay, I'm on the page. 192. $120. I have no idea where the heck that's coming from. Stand by, I'm gonna look at one more thing. Cat, I have a theory. It's perfect. It's utterly and absolutely perfect. All right, we're going to make it work. I will put no more than 2 minutes into this, but it's got to work. Is there anything that I missed? By the way, I did this morning. Nope, there's only one line in there. It's index PHP. I got the right name. Let's delete it and recreate it with index and with nano instead of pseudo. I'll bet. But why it's getting the old Apache page doesn't make sense to me. Sudo remove index.php. I'm recreating the file now with nano index.php. I have to use sudo. I don't have write privileges in this folder. Okay, let me do one more thing. We'll do it this way. I'll have you watch this in a second. Almost took you to the page that's got my codes. All right, I'm recopying the code straight from the original page. Now I'm going to share. our terminal with you. Clear. ls. There's nothing in this folder. If I, just to demonstrate what's going on here, if I try to nano something, index.php, down here, directory current is not writable. So that's no good. So we have to sudo it. Okay, code goes in. Quit, save changes, yes. To index.php. I know the problem. All right, watch this. This is what happens when you have 45 pies running. Now you know the problem. Close this. I have to connect to the web server that we did this on. All right, now I'll share with you. We're back in biz. Sorry. But Dave, it looks exactly the same. Yeah, it does. var www.html. Okay, so there's all the old stuff. So I'm going to get rid of this index.html. Oh, here, let's make sure we know what the, it's 120. Sudo remove index.html. It's saved in that index old. That index wire is the one that we're going to create as a PHP, but it's not called index.php, so it won't get read. So sudo nano index.php. Copy the handy dandy little line in. Yeah, I knew if it did that many changes, it would forget. That's all right. And we're back. Right click, paste. There we go. Control X. Yes. The machine that I was doing that on, first of all, it doesn't have PHP support installed, so it would never have read it no matter what. And it was always reading the index.html file from this machine. So let's make sure we know what we've got here. There is no index.html. There is an index.php. So we stop sharing here. We share my web browser tab. Okay, I'll share that one with you. Control T. .192.128.168.1.120. Okay, ready? Holding our breath. I don't like you anymore. So 125? No. How is this possible? All right, that's the web control server. Let me check the IP address on it. It's 120. Index PHP, index old. And remove everything that's an HTML file. And I'll even remove that old index wire file just for fun. So there's nothing in here. Sudo remove index underscore wire .php. All right, there is one file. I don't think I did a fresh install, but just for safe, what I'm going to do is reinstall PHP. Can't imagine that there's any point in that. I'll take you with me. Doesn't take that long. We still got over 25 minutes. We have a grand total of 5 minutes of work to do here. Okay, it was there. It's good. Let me go look at something, one final thing just for safe. 192, 168, 1.120. Ah, okay, the page was cached. So when I was refreshing it, it didn't refresh the cache. I had to do a control F5. So I'll share that with you, and let's go back here to anything. Okay, here's a good place to go. So there's our pie hole. So now we're going to go into this PHP thing that's not cached anymore, 120. So that one little command that we put in there was the PHP info command. And all it does is report stats about the PHP engine that we're up and running. Blech, sorry about that. Okay, so the only other thing that we have to do now, we've wired our Pi to those drawings that I gave you before, and I'll show you a live image of it in a moment. So all we have to do is create or edit the index.php file. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, so I'm going to stop the share and restart it just for safe. All right, so we're going to edit it. Sudo nano index.php. We get rid of this line. And we're going to copy the code from that website. And I'll explain some of it as we go. Now, one of the things that PHP has the ability to do is to make shell calls. Can run the same kind of command that you would run in a shell. What it does is it kind of opens up a little internalized shell, runs the command, and then closes the shell. I'll show you what I mean. Every time I think I go someplace private, I think it takes you with me. All right, so we paste that into there. And what we're going to check is make sure that it starts with HTML, because Apache still reads HTML code, and it ends with a whack HTML. Okay, so that tells us that everything in there is complete. It's got some name, it's got some advertising in here. The guy who invented this tutorial's got his website on there. Now this input type says we're going to create two buttons. Input type is submit. That's a button, submit. And the button is going to have the value of off and a label called off. And likewise, another button called on. Down here, it's going to open up the shell, and it's going to run the command that preps IO pin 27. Hey, turn IO pin 27 mode into output. And then whenever anybody selects the off button, run the shell program, GPIO, write to pin 27, the value of 0, which means off, of course. And if somebody presses the on button, then we'll send a 1 to the 27. So let me save this, Control X, save it, yes, index, yes, stop share here. And now I'll take you over to that tab. Okay, so this is what index.php brought up last time. Now I'm going to do a Control F5, clear the cache and read it fresh. It's not a very sophisticated looking page, but there's the on off button. Now I can click on and off here and you'll never see anything, right? Yeah, Dave pushed off. And over here it says, or pressed on, it says the LED is on. And if I press off, it says the LED is off. So you probably want to see that. Let me do that for you. Let me do it this way. I'm going to change cameras. So I got a camera pointed down here at the Raspberry Pi and the little circuit board. Now here's the LED, and it's a mini LED, no power at all, but it is so bright that it blows this camera away. So I've got this little piece of tinted plastic that I found lying around the house this morning. So I'm going to go to the web page and I'm going to hit the on off button. I'm hitting off, it's already off. So we hit on, and let me see how that looks, because that makes my, hey, look at that. So that is really bright. Let me pull that off of there real quick. See, it turns so bright, it loses all contrast with the board. So what's going on here? We click a button in a PHP web that knows how to make a GPIO call. So PHP calls the shell runs the GPIO command that we feed to it, and it turns that on and it turns it off. So are we impressed? You should be. It's a simple thing. It's an insanely simple thing. But if we take that now and we apply it on a grander scale, I'm going to show you two things. Cool. We got plenty of time left over, and this is everything I have to do. This. So here's exactly the same circuit. I got a ground wire going to pin to ground 3 over here, 246, pin 6. And here's a GPIO pin 27. It's going to control one of these boxes in here. And we do this just so that the Pi and this box have the same power potential thing. So what is this box? It's a bank of relays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 relays. Now, a relay is a little magnetic switch that I can use this circuitry to open and close the switch. Now, that switch doesn't take a lot of power to open and close, but when it's open and closed, like on here, it can carry a massive amount of voltage. This relay is separated from all of the circuitry to the left of my mouse from all of the stuff on the right of my mouse. So I can run 120 volts or 220 volts here, or whatever makes me happy. And these then become switches that you can use to turn on and off equipment. So now we program over here with a web server or a program or whatever else makes you happy, maybe another sensor to tell when the ground is getting dry. And this controls a sprinkler system. And it just never ends from there. That's the cool thing about this. So this is something you got to open up your mind for. And are you ready for this? I picked this up online. I didn't get a special deal for this. This is a stuck in the box. I bought a whole bunch of these just for fun. I bought a circuit board that's got one relay on it and one that's got 2 relays. And this one has 4. Come here, you. Get out of the box. It's stuck in there. So there's a little 4-pack of relays, and 8s and 16s and 24s and 48s and whatever you got your little heart set on. It looks like there's only 27 GPIO pins, but there's ways to expand that and expand that capability. So you could, I'll tell you what, if you ever see any of those Christmas show displays where people set up 20 million lights, these relays and oftentimes Raspberry Pis are controlling them. How to go? Oh, it's still running. Let me turn it off. I actually used a slightly undersized resistor in there. If you got to pick a resistor, better a little bigger than a little smaller so you don't burn anything out. All right, let me take a look at the feed and see what all I've missed as I made such a debacle out of that. Hey, oh my gosh. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit caught up. I see Scott's working his heart out over there. Man, I see all kinds of new faces. I don't know where I left off. Hey, okay, there's the Ultronics then. That takes me pretty close. There's a lot of stuff here. Between 318 and 340, we'll catch it all up. Hey, I'm with you. I eat lunch at my computer all the time. When I'm working, doing my work for Total, I got a bowl of soup here and I'm typing in what I need to type. Yeah, it's not a hard thing unless you do stupid things like Dave doesn't do a refresh or connects to the wrong server. There's literally 5 Pis sitting on my desk right now and another dozen running throughout the house that I don't have connectable on this machine to be that much more confusing. You will be tested on these commands. Mostly what I got to do here. You're right about that Fogarty lawsuit. That was a hilarious thing, and he won it. Most of these are just reading. Looks like not a lot of things that I need to answer. Throw some new questions in at the bottom so I can have something productive and say the show was worth going the full 2 hours. Reading. Thank you, Andre. I love you too. Can you do this process on a Pi that you already have a Pi hole running on? Yeah, if as long as you don't screw. Oh, wait a minute. No, because Pi-hole has a built-in lightweight web server that doesn't support PHP. So nope, you'll have to kill the Pi. If you want to do this experiment on a Pi-hole, shut the Pi-hole down, pop the SD card out, set it aside, pop a new one in, do this lab, and when you're done, pop that out and pop the Pi-hole one back in. But no, they both use port 80, and that would be a conflict. I was coming up on hand puppets any minute then. You do not, have you noticed you don't see me stand up? At least if I do, I'm facing backward. You don't want to see the rest of this. I got a DRM pop-up on Brave when I went to Udemy yesterday. Brave wanted me to choose block or allow. I had some weird stuff happen on Udemy yesterday as well. So it's something that was going on in their site. It's gone away. You should be able to get there today. I was able to get there today with no unusual things. Yeah, you're exactly right, Ian. So I can read it, I can say it all day long, but until you actually do it. And I'll tell you what, I do this kind of stuff all the time. I live and play with electronics. When I fired this up this week, as simple as it is, and the light went on with the first click, I had a for the win moment. And this is simple, but it's so fun, it's so exciting, and it's so powerful. I think this I'm still dwelling on Ian's line here. This is kind of like the old Mike Tyson line. Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. Then you got to start making it up. But we do have a good troubleshooting theory model in that one, didn't we? Yeah, you nailed it, nitroglycerin. I needed to clear the cache. Choco Taco, welcome, my friend. Nice to see you, sir. Everybody doing the new. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to change my password. Oh, document, identify, test the theory, implement the solution. You're missing 2 steps there, Ian. Troubleshooting model is a 6-step model, 7 if you use networking. 40 Pi is running. Yeah, it's a ding, 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 ding. Thank you. Bonus. I skipped a step there. Okay, Dr. Quinn, you want to call a friend? Yes. I wonder if we would have come up with, are you sure you're attaching to the right Pi? Arr. All right. Now it happened. Hand puppets, socks. Yeah, so that's the trick. No, so you cannot, can you install Apache software on a Pi-hole? If I were going to do that, let's go back, because I think the answer to that might be yes. If you install Pi-hole first, I don't know. But if I were going to do this and try to have an Apache server running, I would install Raspberry Pi OS, then I would install Apache and PHP, as long as I'm going to do that, and then I would install Pi-hole. And when the installation got around to asking, do you want to install a web server? and it offers Light PD as its web server, then you can say no because you've already got one. The trick is not to have Light PD because it won't support PHP. I'm feeling good about that answer. Alice, trying to follow Dave's explanation, but have a bottle of wine. Was it kitty flavored? Yeah, we all need more RAM. Hey, by the way, that LED, okay, I mentioned that before. The LED is polarized, and I drew a picture of one. I wanted to show you that. Let me do that. It'll just take a second. Share. So back on my handy dandy little diagram, a whole bunch of moon pictures earlier. Boom, 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 boom. There. So this drawing looks pretty sloppy, and that's because it is. But notice that I actually did this on purpose here. This long leg on an LED, that's a standard. All LEDs have a long leg and a shorter one, and the long one is the positive. Cool, Dave. All right, hey, we're getting toward the end. This is cool, which means I'm getting caught up. So I need questions. Yeah, if you watch this from the beginning, cut out the section between hour 120, hour 105, and hour 120. I'm on time mark 327 if anybody's following along with me. Tulowit. I don't generally use tabs because I forget to close the page. Oh my God. You should see Scott's computer. I have seen him with 60 tabs open. And I'm sure that he would open multiple tabs. Oh, I missed a question to 315. Okay, well, it's posted here, so I'll do that. Tolo, when I get mine, I plan to connect it to my WLAN so I can be Wi-Fi Pi guy. You actually reposted that here on our back channel and made me read that. I'm embarrassed that I read it. I'm embarrassed that you posted it. All right. Yeah, I read that one. Real reason for 32 gigs of RAM. I'm with you on there. Okay, so I'm caught up. I'm 338 and moving along. I think, yeah, you came in after the physical electrical explanation. So yeah, go back. We detail and flesh it all out. It's all good. You'll learn muchly from here. And the back channel fills in. Cool. Tolowit, can you use IFTTT with Pi? Well, I don't know. Why do I not know what IFTTT is? It's either a Tolowit pun or, I mean, that sounds like what you say after you drink the kitty flavored wine. Got me there. Fill that in for me if you would. Yes, I know everything except the stuff I don't know. Okay, that much. Yeah, you got to do this. This is such a simple and fun lab. Thank you. Missed my comment 315. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So don't do that, Tolowit. If I miss a comment at 315, repost it. I'd have to go all the way back up to 315, then come back down and figure out where I was. Thank you, Dr. Quinn. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to drink some of that kitty flavored wine today and actually swallow it because I'm so horrified at how badly that went. Is this how a PLC works? Wow. I suppose if you parse the semantics hard enough, yes. Right. There's no HMI. There's an HMI here. It's not well monitored. If we built in some actual monitoring, the script says the LED is on because somebody clicked the button, not because it actually senses voltage on the pin or because it's looking through a photo cell at the Pi. Of course, there's nothing automated about this. It totally requires a human management interface, me and my keyboard, to do everything. So at the thinnest, lightest possible definition of PLC, yeah, that's a Sec Plus question, and to a lesser degree, a Network Plus question. But the ultimate in bare bones might follow it. Good question, Andre. I like that. I allowed the DRM. It was something from Google. I don't know why Brave suggested. I trust Brave. That was a foolish thing in the past because it was doing some things that didn't affect me because of my blocking, but faith. Yes. iFaith, which would be an internet version of having faith. I believe in the internet. I trust it implicitly, explicitly. Use the purge command. Thank you, Chaco. It was, oh, I see. Okay, it was a 4-question quiz. I see. I gotcha. You didn't cover the whole thing. Brendan, I think it was Widevine. Yeah, well, I mean, Widevine is built into, that's the DRM management for everybody else, is built into the Brave distro. So Widevine may very well have picked it up, but I don't know. RAM is life. Hey, Kevin Lopez. Nice to see you, sir. Last word, a new face. Chrome is using 2 gigs on my computer right now. I don't care enough to look right now to bring up and see what Brave is doing, but that's something I never did, was actually go and run all my browsers and see how much RAM they suck up. I'm guessing I suck up a lot because I'm kind of Scott-like. I got a lot of tabs open and I have 3 different Brave browsers open. So it may be pulling up a good bit of RAM. Oh, okay. Thank you, Toluit. I am so bad on that texting type jargon. Yeah, if this, then that. Okay, yeah, it's programming, IoT. I was pronouncing your face like Mike Tyson. Hey, and I am coming up on the very end with 3 minutes to go. Nice. Alice, integrated torrent manager. Yes, it does have integrated. And the first time I used it, it completely redirected me to someplace that I wasn't trying to go. And I was horribly disappointed. And I let it sit for a day or two and I rebooted at some point in there and I tried it again and it works like a dream. So yet another good reason for Brave. Michael told me that one of the popular browsers is going to pull FTP support from it right now, sometime in the next year. And there's a million ways we all know how to do FTP by command line, and Brave does FTP and Firefox does FTP, but somebody's pulling in as a major name, and often when that happens, others follow suit. So the world holds its collective breath. Big deal, right? In the real world, we don't use FTP very much except in our own handy dandy worlds. Yes, of course, for Linux legal downloads. Hey, well, 2 minutes to go. We covered everything that we needed to do with my mistake that took it right up to the last minute, but I'm not going to complain about that. We did what we were supposed to do in the time allotted. We answered all of the questions. We read all of Polowitz's puns. Polowitz's tons. I picked up a little bit of Mike speak from yesterday. Michael has an alarm clock that trips triggers at exactly on the hour. So that gives me a moment to put this back up. So remember, we got specials. This commercial brought to you by Total Seminars. 50% off. It's an awesome price for a tremendous amount of really good training materials. So A+, Net+, Total Tester, and Total Tester Sims bundles. So you can buy straight Total Tester for A+ and Net+, or the Total Tester Sims bundles, or straight security Total Tester. 50 points off an already cheap process. Use the code AUTUMN, AUTUMN, at checkout. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to read and answer the last couple of questions, and I'm going to get a back channel message from a second from Michael that says, and you're off, or something to that effect. I know, I'm giving away the back secrets of how we operate. Hey, you're very welcome, Andy STL. You have a great weekend as well. 25 people. Everybody say Goodbye at the same time. Not with this name. Everybody type me in a goodbye so I know you're all here. And seeing nothing. Hey, there we go. Bye. I knew you'd get creative. Thank you. Okay, Michael is saying, give me the signal. I'm going to take that. It's been great seeing you again. Michael will be here on his regular thing Monday and Wednesday. I'll be here again next Friday. Another cool new project. In the meantime, goodbye. Thank you.